Is a classic Mercedes actually a good car to have during a natural disaster? So I was talking to a friend of mine recently after we got record rain in South Florida, which seems to happen every year. They're like, oh, it's a record rainfall. Well, you're in Florida, buddy. You're not in Nevada. So a record rainfall here, like, it's kind of all the same. It either rains a lot or it rains too much, but it's never going to not rain much. So he was talking about how his 300 SE got caught in a flood, and he sort of just had to push through and hop some curbs and get through to his house. It took him about 4 hours crawling around Fort Lauderdale in heavy traffic because nobody knew what to do, but he made it. Car had no major issues, and so it started to get me thinking about how classic Mercedes perform when you're stuck in some of these situations: a hurricane, a flood, massive power outage, which is whatever, earthquake, well, hailstorm might be a good one. So we're going to look at a couple of these scenarios in which Mercedes you'd really want to be driving. Let's talk about a flood first. I've been caught in some minor flooding in my old red 300 TD wagon. And one of the things I will say is if I'm in an area and there's a flood, like I got water up to my wheels, you better believe I want to be in a Mercedes. Gas or diesel, I'd prefer diesel, but if it were gas, fine, whatever. The intakes are up high. The alternators are down low in some of the cars, but they seem to perform pretty well even when they're flooded out. They're not known for getting water into the floors too badly unless they're rusty, but if it's a diesel, you know, those cars are just about impervious to water. They can even suck a little bit of water into the intake and keep going, but you don't want to get too much in because they'll hydrolock. Those cars are so effective in bad weather, flooding, bad roads, you know, even some mud. The one thing you don't want to do is get your tires stuck. They're not great in mud, not great in heavy snow, unless you have tire chains, but they are freaking fantastic in floods. Let's look at another scenario. So probably my favorite one is hurricane. Hurricane is a bad one because the thing that makes hurricanes bad are the people who don't know what to do and have not prepared for a hurricane. The best thing to do during a hurricane is avoid people as much as you can. Stockpile water, make sure you have some food, keep your neighbors, hang out with your neighbors, and just wait till all the stupidity subsides, because people will try to evacuate because they're so scared. Like, I don't know, like most hurricanes are never as bad as they say they're going to be. I mean, sometimes they are. Like Katrina, yeah, get me out of New Orleans, please, somebody, you know, but there's some people in the federal government that made Katrina an even worse disaster than it already was. So the situation with a classic Mercedes in a hurricane is this: you want a diesel, and you want to know where you can buy diesel. And if you do have to go, you don't leave the Mercedes, you take it with you, because you're not going to be able to get fuel for weeks. So I would say that in a hurricane, having a Mercedes with a diesel engine is the one car you'd want to have. I'm sure maybe you have an F350 diesel or something great, but if you don't, you have an old Mercedes sitting in the garage that you don't drive much that's got a diesel engine, and you do have to go if there's like a mandatory evacuation or something and it's like a major storm, you're worried about flooding, you're worried about having to crawl along in traffic, first stop, go to the auto parts store and get some gas for your air conditioner, and then go buy diesel, because you can always get diesel. It never sells out, and they have to have it for first responders. So yeah, go get some diesel. So let's look at a third scenario. A third scenario that I really, really, really don't like. And I mean, there are all sorts of things like torrential rain, road washes out, or hailstorm, or extreme cold, or whatever. Let's say you have a blizzard. What would I do in a blizzard if I had a classic Mercedes? Now, this is probably the one scenario where I would not want a diesel. But the gas Mercedes are designed for some stupid cold weather. If there's snow, the first thing you do is jack up the back of that car and put tire chains on it, and jack up the front and put tire chains on it. if you're in a cold climate, you should have tire chains. You don't know what a tire chain is, you shouldn't be driving in winter. But those cars have some great heat. If you have tire chains or some good studded snow tires like some Noki and Hakkapelitas, you're good. You can go anywhere. You know, the cars will chop their way through. Even if you do have a diesel, like, plug in the block heater. Let's hope you have a block heater and access to electricity. If you don't have a block heater and you don't have access to electricity, guess what you could do? You can literally light a fire under the oil pan. Just be careful, you don't want to burn up the car, but you can light a small fire under the oil pan, or put your space heater under the oil pan just to heat up the oil so the car will run better. Okay guys, well, I hope you're not stuck in a natural disaster, but if you need your classic Mercedes, it should be there to help you. Just don't do anything stupid. It won't be like an EcoBoost engine where it snaps the oil pump belt, or a Dodge Charger where it sucks a bunch of water into the intake and grenades the engine within seconds. So I hope you guys found this video useful. We'll see you in the next one. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy if you're down in South Florida, enjoy the rain.